Raymond Ellis pulled his pickup truck into a spot across from McAllister Motors, the morning sun just beginning to cast long shadows over the quiet Charlotte street. It was 6:55 a.m., early enough that the dealership's parking lot held only a handful of cars belonging to the punctual few who arrived before the day's rush. From the driver's seat, Raymond studied the glassy facade of the showroom, its fluorescent lights already glowing against the dawn. He exhaled, reached for his mop bucket and duffel bag, and stepped out, dressed in khaki work pants, black non-slip shoes, and a blue maintenance shirt with Ray stitched across the chest. To anyone passing by, he was just another janitor. But Raymond Ellis was no ordinary janitor, not today. 3 weeks prior, he had finalized the purchase of McAllister Motors through an LLC under his holding company, Ellis Automotive Holdings. After nearly 3 decades in automotive sales, franchising, and commercial real estate, Raymond had built a quiet empire, one deal at a time. Now, at 52, he was returning to the industry that had given him his start. But this time, he wanted to do things differently. Before making any changes, staff cuts, policy shifts, or structural overhauls, he needed to see the dealership for what it was, unfiltered. So, he'd taken a page from his early days when he'd worked every job from lot porter to sales manager and donned a janitor's uniform to blend into the background. Inside, the dealership was already stirring. A few employees nodded politely as he entered through the back door, their greetings brief and distant, the kind reserved for someone in coveralls. Salespeople unlocked cabinets, front desk staff reviewed schedules, and the faint hum of upbeat pop music filled the showroom. A delivery of SUV had arrived the previous night, and the service bay buzzed with technicians prepping for the day. No one paid much attention to Raymond, which was exactly what he wanted. By 8:15 a.m., Colleen Draper, the general manager, arrived. Her red heels clicked sharply against the high-gloss tile, her navy slacks and white blouse pressed to perfection. Her black leather handbag, stiff and expensive, slapped against her thigh as she strode past the reception desk. "Morning, Miss Draper," a salesman called out, his voice eager. She barely glanced back. "Let's have a strong day, people," she said, her tone clipped, commanding. Sales reps straightened instinctively, their postures snapping to attention. Raymond was mopping the showroom floor when Colleen noticed him. Her heels stopped abruptly a few feet away, and she turned, her eyes narrowing as she sized him up. "Who cleared maintenance to be in the showroom during open hours?" she asked, her voice sharp enough to make 2 customers glance over. Raymond didn't look up, just kept mopping in slow, deliberate strokes. "Just trying to get the floor cleaned before it gets busy," he said evenly. "Try harder," Colleen snapped. "You're dragging dirt across our high-gloss tile. That mop water looks like coffee. Are you even using a fresh bucket?" Raymond paused, then met her gaze calmly. "Yes, ma'am. Clean water, fresh mop head." Colleen scoffed. "This isn't a gas station bathroom. Keep it moving, out of sight." He nodded once, turned, and resumed mopping, guiding his bucket toward a side hallway. Colleen shook her head, muttering about standards falling, as she walked off. A few employees glanced away, avoiding the scene. Milo, a young salesman with a nervous energy, looked like he wanted to say something but stayed silent. Raymond wasn't surprised. People don't risk their jobs for the janitor, especially not when the boss speaks like that. But he'd seen enough in that moment. The tone, the performance, the way Colleen made sure everyone heard. This wasn't about a mop. It was about power, about reminding everyone who held it and who didn't. As the morning unfolded, Raymond moved through the dealership, his presence barely registering. He wiped down display stands, emptied trash bins, and listened. He noticed the way salespeople flinched when Colleen walked by, the way the receptionist, Lana, lowered her voice when answering phones. He saw how Colleen's assistant manager, Dean Hollow, quietly fixed scheduling conflicts and soothed frustrated customers without ever drawing attention to himself. Dean had been with the dealership for 7 years. Raymond learned from overheard conversations, but carried himself like someone who'd learned to keep his head down to survive. Around noon, the dealership hit a busy stretch. A couple test drove an SUV, a young family sat at the finance desk, and an older man browsed brochures by the coffee station. Raymond was in a far corner, wiping down a display stand, when a small child from the family spilled a cup of juice near the front door. The mother, flustered, scrambled for paper towels, but Raymond was already there, pulling a towel from his supply cart and kneeling to clean the mess. The child's father, a wiry man in a golf polo, smiled. "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." "No problem," Raymond said, his voice low, his focus on the floor. Colleen, emerging from the break room, saw it and pounced. "Oh no," she said loudly, striding toward him. "You've got to be kidding me." The room didn't go silent, but it shifted, heads turned, conversations paused. She pointed at Raymond like he'd committed a crime. "You're wiping the showroom floor in front of customers, on your knees. What is this, a daycare center?" She turned to the family at the finance desk. "I apologize for this, truly. It won't happen again." The mother tried to protest. No, he was helping us. But Colleen wasn't listening. "You think this is what we want? New buyers seeing someone crawling around like a maintenance man from a truck stop." She looked back at Raymond, her face twisted with disgust. "You are making us look cheap." Raymond stood slowly, towel in hand, his expression unreadable. He didn't say a word, just met her gaze. Colleen shook her head. "Do you even know how much these cars cost? How hard we work to build a luxury experience here? And you're out here like it's amateur hour." Milo took a hesitant step forward. "Miss Draper, maybe it's not your turn, Milo," she snapped, her eyes still on Raymond. "I have no idea who authorized you, but I'm talking to Marcus in facilities. You shouldn't even be on this floor." Raymond's voice was soft but steady. "You done?" Colleen blinked, thrown by his calm. "I'm here to work," he said. "That's what I'm doing. Clean messes, keep the floor safe. That's all I've done." She opened her mouth but hesitated, unsettled by the stillness in his eyes. Then she regained her composure. "Keep the floor clean, then, in the service bay, not out here where people actually spend money." She turned on her heel and strode toward the office corridor. Lana, the receptionist, offered Raymond a small, awkward smile as he passed with his cart. He didn't return it, just kept moving, one towel at a time. But the room had changed. Whispers started, not just about the scene, but about him. The way he stood his ground, the way he didn't argue. Something about it didn't fit the janitor's role. In the finance office, the child's father leaned toward his wife. "That guy doesn't look like a janitor." She nodded. "And she looks like trouble." Raymond kept working, but he was listening, watching, building a picture. Colleen had shown her hand, and it wasn't just her. The dealership ran on fear of her voice, her judgment, her control. And Raymond, invisible in his coveralls, was starting to see exactly what he'd come to find. In the break room that afternoon, a few employees decompressed over sandwiches and lukewarm coffee. Lana sat next to Milo, who was still quiet from the earlier outburst. Across from them was Dana, a finance assistant with a sharp tongue and sharper instincts. "You saw what happened, right?" Lana asked, her voice low. Milo nodded. "Yeah, pretty hard to miss. She didn't need to go off like that." Dana peeled the foil off her turkey wrap. "He didn't do anything wrong. I mean, she's always like that. Twice now," Lana said. "She embarrassed him in front of customers." Dana leaned back, chewing thoughtfully. "You all think something's weird about him." Milo frowned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Dana said. "He's not acting like a regular janitor. He doesn't flinch, doesn't look confused or lost. Even the way he talks, it's calm, like he's watching us." Lana hesitated. "You think he's like corporate?" Dana raised her eyebrows. "Wouldn't be the first time someone came in under disguise to see how people act. My cousin works at a resort in Naples. New owner did that last year, pretended to be valet." Milo scoffed. "Yeah, but this is Charlotte. This is a dealership. That doesn't happen here." Dana pointed with her sandwich. "That place changed ownership a few weeks ago. Colleen didn't say much, but I heard her snapping at someone in the office about the new buyer keeping a low profile. And get this, they never announced who bought it. Just said it was part of some holding group." Lana blinked. "You think he's the guy?" Dana shrugged. "I don't know, but something's off." Milo leaned back, skeptical but intrigued. "I mean, he did stand up to her, didn't flinch, just stared right at her." Dana grinned. "And she didn't like that one bit." Outside the break room, Raymond paused at a utility sink, refilling a cleaning bottle. The door was cracked, and he caught fragments of their conversation. Not every word, but enough. The smart ones were starting to connect dots. That wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He wiped his hands, glanced at his reflection in the scratched mirror, and gave himself a small nod. In the showroom, Colleen was on the phone, her voice louder than necessary. "No, I'm not overreacting," she snapped. He was kneeling on the floor like a janitor from some roadside motel in the middle of the showroom. "I don't care if facilities said he's new, he's not trained for customer spaces. Yes, I'll talk to HR if I have to, but he doesn't belong up here." She slammed the receiver down. Raymond kept moving, his mop bucket rolling silently behind him. He'd seen enough to know the dealership's shine was only surface, deep. Beneath it was a workplace shaped by fear, favoritism, and silence. And Colleen Draper was at the center of it all. By his second day, Raymond had a clearer picture of McAllister Motors, and it wasn't a flattering one. The dealership's exterior gleam, glass windows spotless, cars polished under LED lights, salespeople smiling like they meant it. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. Colleen's presence set the tone, and it wasn't one of collaboration or trust. It was control, sharp and unrelenting. Raymond saw it in the small moments. Colleen snapped at Lana for laughing too loudly near the reception desk, her voice carrying across the showroom. She berated a porter for touching a display model without gloves, her words slicing through the air. When a technician tried to explain a warranty issue, she cut him off mid-sentence and walked away, leaving him standing there, hands in his pockets. No one pushed back. No one questioned her. Employees moved around her like she was a live wire, unpredictable and dangerous. Even Dean Hollow, the assistant manager, kept his head down. Raymond had noticed him early on, a man with over a decade of experience who carried himself like someone who'd once had a voice but had learned to bury it. Dean fixed problems quietly, smoothing over Colleen's mistakes without drawing attention. During a slow hour, Raymond approached him while cleaning a smudged window. "You've been here long?" he asked, his tone casual. Dean didn't look up from his clipboard. "Almost 7 years. Seems like you run a tight operation," Raymond said, wiping the glass. Dean gave a faint chuckle. Not my operation. Raymond tilted his head. Still, you're the one people go to when they need something handled. Dean finally met his eyes just for a moment. You're not a regular janitor, are you? Raymond smiled faintly. Why do you say that? No offense, Dean said, hesitating. Just, you carry yourself different, like someone who doesn't have to be here. Raymond folded his cloth over the bucket's rim. Maybe I'm just someone who wants to see what goes on when people think no one's watching. Dean nodded slowly, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He didn't press further, but the exchange lingered. In the service bay, Raymond saw more of the same. Technicians worked hard, sweating under hoods, wiping grease off their hands with faded rags. But they weren't invited to the team building retreat Colleen bragged about to the front staff. You think she even knows our names? One mechanic muttered to another, his voice low. Only if we mess something up, came the reply. During a mid-afternoon lull, Raymond passed a conference room where Colleen was holding court with the sales team. She stood before a whiteboard, marker in hand, talking about quotas and brand perception. You're not just selling vehicles, she said, circling a number. You're selling us. Every interaction is either a reason to trust us or a reason to walk. Her words were polished, but her eyes scanned for weakness, ready to pounce on any sign of dissent. Milo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The room felt heavy, not motivated but controlled. Raymond leaned against a hallway wall, pulling out a small notebook from his pocket. He scribbled 4 words, they work through fear. Then he closed it and kept moving. By the end of the day, the floors were spotless, the trash bins emptied, the showroom smelling faintly of lemon disinfectant. As Raymond pushed his cart toward the back exit, Colleen passed him again. Let's try not to embarrass us tomorrow, she said without slowing down. He didn't reply, just kept walking, head high, eyes forward. She wasn't watching the right things, and that was her mistake. 3 days later, Colleen was in high spirits. Sales were up, last quarter's numbers were strong, and she'd heard corporate was sending someone to observe operations. A chance to showcase her leadership. She moved through the dealership with a rare smile, adjusting her blazer and touching up her lipstick between calls. The staff, sensing her mood, relaxed slightly. Lana smiled again. Milo even cracked a joke in the break room. But the calm wouldn't last. At 10:00 a.m., a black town car pulled up outside. Colleen strode toward the glass doors, her smile widening as she saw a man in a gray tailored suit step out, his gold watch catching the sunlight. This had to be the corporate observer, but then another figure emerged from the car. Raymond, no mop, no coveralls, just a sharp navy suit and a steady gaze. Colleen froze, her mind racing to make sense of it. A mistake, maybe, a delivery. The man in the gray suit spoke first. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce Mr. Raymond Ellis, majority owner of Ellis Automotive Holdings. Effective immediately, he is the principal owner of this dealership. The room went still. A pen clattered on the front desk. Milo's coffee nearly tipped over. Colleen blinked, her voice rising. Excuse me. Raymond stepped forward. You heard him. You're... What? She stammered. The janitor. Yeah, that was me for a few days, Raymond said, his voice calm. Just wanted to see how things ran when nobody was watching. That's absurd, Colleen said, her tone sharp with disbelief. You can't just pretend to be someone else and, actually I can, Raymond said. And I did. The purchase was finalized 3 weeks ago through an LLC, clean and quiet. I've done it before. Why? Colleen demanded, her voice trembling with frustration. To see who I'm trusting my business with, Raymond said, and to see how the people working under you are treated. He paused, his eyes steady. I've seen more than enough. Colleen crossed her arms, grasping for control. You're judging a few days. That's not even close to a full picture. Raymond's smile faded. You judged me in 30 seconds. Silence settled between them. The staff stood frozen, watching. You humiliated me twice, loudly. Raymond continued. Not because I made a mistake, but because I didn't look like someone who belonged here. And if that's how you treat someone you think can't fight back, then I have to wonder how you treat the rest of my team when I'm not around. He turned to the room. I'm calling a staff meeting in the next hour. Everyone, full attendance, including service and detail. Colleen's voice was quiet now. Am I included in that? Raymond met her eyes evenly. You'll be addressed then. He walked toward the conference room. The staff lingered a moment longer, exchanging glances, then returned to their tasks. Colleen stood rooted, her face flushed, her world tilting. The ground had shifted beneath her, and she was the only one pretending nothing had changed. 45 minutes later, every employee of McAllister Motors crowded into the main conference room. Technicians in coveralls stood shoulder to shoulder with finance associates in business casual. Some leaned against the back wall, clutching half-finished coffees. No one knew exactly what was coming, but the air was thick with anticipation. Raymond stood at the front, hands clasped, no notes or slides, just presence. He scanned the room, meeting eyes one by one. First off, thanks for being here, he said. I know this wasn't on your schedule. A few heads nodded, but no one spoke. My name is Raymond Ellis. Some of you may know that name, some don't. That's okay. What you need to know is I've just taken over ownership of this dealership, and I didn't come here to put on a show or swing a hammer. I came to listen, and I did. He paused, letting the words settle. I spent a few days here doing the quiet work, mopping floors, taking out trash, listening to the conversations that happen when people think they're not being watched. His eyes flicked briefly to Colleen, who stood stiffly in the corner, arms folded, jaw tight. What I heard, what I saw, told me a lot about this place, about who carries weight, about who feels safe speaking up and who doesn't. The room shifted slightly, people glancing sideways, adjusting their stance. I saw employees walking on eggshells. Raymond continued, not because of pressure to perform, but because of fear. Fear of being singled out, dismissed, or humiliated. That's not how you build trust, that's how you drain it. Milo glanced at Lana, who stared at the floor, arms crossed. Someone near the back exhaled audibly. I get it, Raymond said. You all need jobs. You've got families, bills, responsibilities. You put your head down and do the work because that's how you survive. But you shouldn't have to survive your workplace. He took a step forward. I'm not here to play hero, but I will be making changes. The way this place has been run doesn't match what I stand for, and it certainly doesn't match what I expect from leadership. His gaze settled on Colleen. Miss Draper, she looked up, shoulders rigid. You've been running this dealership for how long? 5 years, she said, her voice steady but cold. You've brought in profit, no question. I've seen the numbers, but profit without people means nothing to me. And if your leadership style relies on control through shame, then we've got a problem. A faint nod came from someone near the front. A whisper moved across the back wall. Colleen opened her mouth. I've done what I thought was best. I'm not here to debate, Raymond said, cutting her off politely but firmly. I'm telling you that your approach doesn't fit here anymore. I'll be reviewing all leadership positions over the next 2 weeks. That includes yours. Her mouth tightened, but she stayed silent. Raymond turned to the group. This place is about to change, starting with transparency, fairness, real communication. If you have ideas, concerns, issues, I want to hear them, not through someone else directly. I'll be setting up time to meet with every department. A technician near the back crossed his arms, his expression not defiant but hopeful. Raymond let the silence linger. This isn't about revenge. It's about respect, and that goes both ways. He gave a small nod. Meeting's done. One by one, people filed out, no one rushing, no one speaking much. Shoulders were looser, heads higher. Colleen remained in the corner, staring straight ahead. Raymond didn't look at her again, but she knew. This wasn't just about a job. It was about being seen, and she could no longer hide behind her title. The next morning, McAllister Motors was quieter, not from a lack of customers, but from a shift in the air. People walked in unsure of where they stood. Even Colleen, usually untouchable, moved with slower steps, her lips tight. Raymond arrived early, not with a mop bucket, but in the upstairs office suite, settling into the space marked with a simple plaque, R. Ellis. At 10:00 a.m. he called for Colleen. She entered, arms folded, her face a neutral mask. She didn't sit until he gestured. "This isn't a courtroom," he said. "You can breathe." She gave a dry, bitter laugh. "I suppose you want my resignation." "No," Raymond said. "I want the truth." She blinked, caught off guard. "I want to know how things got this way." He continued, "How you convinced yourself that fear would lead to excellence." Colleen sat back, her voice slower, more human. "When I first got here, this place was chaos. Sales were flat, morale was non-existent, everyone was too casual. I brought structure, control, and it worked. We became the top performing branch in the state. But at what cost?" Raymond asked. She didn't answer. "You humiliated your staff," he said. "You turned leadership into a performance. You confused discipline with dominance, and that made people afraid to speak. That's not leadership, Colleen. That's insecurity dressed up in authority." Her face twitched. "I was trying to keep things tight, keep people focused. You kept them silent," he corrected, "and they still performed, but not because of you, in spite of you." Colleen looked away. "So what happens now?" "You're being placed on leave," Raymond said. "Effective immediately, paid for now. HR will schedule your exit review. You can apply for a position again in 6 months. Elsewhere, but here it's done." She stared at him, not angry, not surprised, just hollow. He extended his hand. She shook it without a word and left. As she passed Dean in the hallway, he gave her a look. Firm, not smug or pitying. He stepped into the office and sat cautiously. "I watched how you handled things this week," Raymond said. "You clean up after others, keep the place from falling apart behind the curtain. You've got quiet leadership in you, and I respect that." Dean said nothing, just listened. "You're not like the others," Raymond added. "That's the point." They talked for 20 minutes. By the end, Dean was offered interim general manager status. Pending a trial period, he accepted. Word spread fast. By lunchtime, the staff knew Colleen was out. No one celebrated openly. It wasn't that kind of place yet. But there was a collective exhale, a release of tension held for years. In the service bay, 2 techs bumped fists quietly. In the showroom, Milo smiled faintly. "Told you he wasn't just a janitor," Lana whispered to Dana. "This might actually turn out okay," Dana replied. Raymond wasn't done. Over the next 2 weeks, he met with every department, not in sterile conference rooms, but in their workspaces, sleeves rolled up, phones off. He listened, asked questions, took notes. Sometimes he just stood there, observing how people interacted. Slowly, the walls came down. Jokes returned to the break room. Lana stopped glancing over her shoulder when she laughed. On a Friday afternoon, as the week wound down, the staff gathered in the back lot for an informal cookout organized by Dean. Raymond stepped onto a small pallet stacked with boxes, raising his voice just enough. "All right, everybody. Just a few words before the burgers are gone." Laughter rippled through the crowd. He scanned their faces, some unsure, some hopeful, a few relieved. "I bought this dealership because I believe places like this matter," he said. "Not because they sell cars, but because they run on people. People who show up early, stay late, solve problems, make customers feel seen. That doesn't happen just because someone's good at their job. It happens when people feel respected." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And that goes both ways, from top to bottom, from management to maintenance. If respect isn't the foundation, the whole thing cracks." Heads nodded. Even the service techs, usually silent, looked his way. "I'm not perfect. I'll miss things, but I promise I won't stop listening. If something's broken, bring it to me. If you've got a better way, speak up. You don't need a title to have ideas." He looked around again. "The uniform doesn't matter. What you drive doesn't matter. How many zeros are in your account doesn't matter. The way you treat people, that's what matters." A quiet settled, not forced but real. Dean clapped once, and others followed, the sound growing. Steady, sincere. Raymond stepped down. Dana handed him a soda. "I got to say," she said, "I didn't think I'd see this place turn around." "We're not there yet," Raymond said, smiling, "but we're pointed in the right direction." "That's a start," she said. Milo approached, hesitant. "Mr. Ellis, I just wanted to say thanks. Not just for what happened, but for giving us a shot to be heard." "It's Raymond," he said, shaking Milo's hand, "and you don't need to thank me for something you should have had all along." That evening, as the lot cleared and the sun dipped below the skyline, Raymond stood near the service bay. The mop bucket he'd used that first day sat tucked in a corner. He looked at it, then turned and walked away. Respect wasn't given once. It was earned again and again in the small choices. And sometimes the biggest lessons came from staying quiet long enough to hear what others never said out loud.
If you liked this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with others so they can learn something from it too.